Live from Town Square Towers at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning and welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I am Phil Brilliant. On my last day substituting for Jeremy, it is Friday, November 11th. It is 6:08 in the morning, give or take 3 to 4 minutes for the Radio Pup app listeners. Remember, join the conversation, 732-505-1160. Today is Veterans Day 2016, and I am very happy, proud, and humbled to have these two gentlemen in front of me. I have Ralph Wolf, who is a trustee of the American Legion Post 129, Toms River, a U.S. Navy vet, and during the day wears the hat as the owner of Jersey Coast Appliance. Make sure we get that plug out there.
Thank you.
And Michael Schaffer, the commander at the American Legion Post 129, Toms River, also a U.S. Navy vet. So good morning, and thank you very much to both of you for serving our country.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, of course, it's always good when we have two guests, because since we don't practice anything, we try to say, okay, let's let each of us talk and don't talk over each other. But you guys seem like you've done this before.
We'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen.
We're good.
You're good?
We're good.
So first of all, let's start with the simple. Okay, I want to talk today about the American Legion Post. I want to talk about years of service. But let's start with the simple. Let's talk about you guys. Okay, so we'll start with Michael. Because it says commander on his shirt, and I feel like I should,
much
give
higher
him,
rank you should start.
I know, I got to
at.
start with the higher rank. Go there. So tell us about, I know Navy veteran. Tell us about your story, active duty, and where you were.
In 1967, I got my draft notice the same day I got my high school diploma, so that pretty much dictated where I was going to go. I'm fourth generation military, so there was no question where I was going. I got out of high school and joined the Navy. My dad was a Navy vet. My grandfather was World War I, so it's pretty much what the family's done. There's been 10 of us in the last 60 years that have served, so it's pretty much a family tradition. It was not much of a question what I was going to do, but it was, so I did volunteer for the Navy. I volunteered for Vietnam. My mom was very happy that that didn't happen. The Navy had other things that they wanted me to do. And I spent 6 years active and was on amphibious forces out of Little Creek, Virginia. We were the transport ships that whenever you see those landing craft go up on the beach with the Marines jumping out and running up the beach, we were the guys that got them onto the beach.
Okay.
And we were really not designed to get off the beach. It was pretty much designed as a one-way trip. If we got back there, we're real happy about that. But if you didn't get back, it was like, well, that's just the nature of doing that job. So I did over in the 6 years, I probably did 3.5, almost 4 years at sea. They talk about all the deployments that guys are going on now and that folks that are serving are going on. But in 4 years, I did 4 6-month deployments, so which didn't make my mom real happy at that point because it was usually September to March. So I missed
you missed all the
Thanksgiving
holidays
and Christmas and New Year's Eve for 4 years running. So, but it was one of those, when you signed up, you knew you're going to do something. So, but it was exciting. I loved every minute of it. It was something if I had to do again today, without question.
Wouldn't blink, not a blink of an eye. You'd do it again.
It was what we had to do to make sure that you and I could sit here and talk this morning about the rest of the stuff that's going on the planet.
And
so
as I started today,
I
I think kids on college campuses need to realize that they get to do what they're doing because of you men and women who serve our country. So, Mr. Wolf.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's funny. Friday mornings, I'm usually hearing your name 5 to 7 times at Member Connect from the Greater Toms River Chamber of Commerce. So this is just a normal Friday morning.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us about your time in the service.
So like Commander Schaffer, I got my draft notice. I was lucky number 295, and through a long process because at the time I got mine, the I was actually drafted. There were no open billets in the volunteer services like the Air Force or the Navy. A friend of mine whose husband happened to be a chief recruiter out of Philadelphia found me an open billet from Alaska in the U.S. Navy. And I said, you know what? I'm going sailing.
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up in the Navy. And he was a huge, and I say that lightly, he was very big help to me. He guided me. He told me exactly.
Yeah,
he told me where I should be and what I should be doing. So I spent 4 years in the U.S. Navy. I was, I'm grateful that I didn't go to the West Coast. My boots did not land in country in Vietnam. However, they did land on the flight deck of the USS Independence. I was attached to Fighter Squadron 33. They were the F-4 Phantoms, if you remember.
I do remember, yeah.
One of the most fierce planes and feared planes in the service at that time. My job was to make sure that the systems that fired the missiles, the Sidewinders and the Sparrows, were working. So my rating was a aviation fire control technician. Now, I loved the service. We got to sail the Atlantic. My wife was not too happy about that, though.
Well, it's interesting. You both kind of touched upon it. I mean, when you enter military service, your life as a family man, your life as a son, a daughter, ends, and you leave that behind. I mean, you might be sending postcards and coming back for a quick stint, but you really are sacrificing what normal life is.
One of the, it's different now with cell phones and Skype and computers. When Ralph and I were in, especially if you were attached to a ship, when they threw that line over the side and you knew you were going to be away for 6 months.
Yeah. You were away for 6 months.
You were away for 6 months. Yeah. There was no phone calls. There was no computer, Skype. There was a snail mail, a bag of mail would get dropped from a helicopter onto the flight deck, and, you may or may not get mail. But in the grand scheme of things, you were off the planet. You could have been on Mars.
So for any of them out, any of the kids out there listening with their parents, or anybody under the age of 40, there were no iPhones on this. On the
no
ship.
iPhone.
Yeah. There were no iPhones. There was no text messaging back. The only communication was with snail mail, as you referred to, which probably most of any of the young listeners probably don't even know what snail mail is.
It was 2 weeks before. If you wrote a letter home, it was 2 weeks before they received it. So everything was very much delayed. If you were lucky and you had liberty at any of the various ports, and you could get to a
phone center,
a phone center with a payphone, you had to have a lot of change to call back to the United States. That was your only way of communications.
My uncle always tells a story. And he was in the Army. That his mom would send him care packages. Yeah. Okay. And this is probably, I think, in the 50s. And he would get the label, but not the package. Mm-hmm. Whatever was in the package, somebody else had that opportunity to enjoy it. He would just get the label. But there was no way to really send back to mom, hey, I'm not getting your package.
There was, again, no communication. You were on a different planet at that point.
Yeah, you
were definitely out of touch.
You were out of touch. But both of you, it sounds like, you were in a time where high school graduation and you got draft notices, so choices were limited as to what you were going to do. And, today we talk about the fact that when men turn 18, they have to sign up for the selective services. But it's that's just to make sure they get financial aid when they go to college these days. There's really nothing more. When we come back, I want to talk about a little bit about that process as, from daily life into military life, and then talk about leaving military life back into daily society, and then also touch upon what the American Legion does for those veterans. We'll start getting back into that. We'll be back in a moment.
Wake up with Jeremy Grunin wherever you go. Download the Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin on this Veterans Day 2016, and I have the honor of being joined in the studio by two great veterans here in Toms River, Ralph Wolf and Michael Schaffer. I feel like I have to say like Commander Michael Schaffer and I don't know what Master Ralph Wolf. But I mean, all kidding aside too. I mean, you guys touched upon the fact, you end up as veterans, but there is a process to get you there. And one of the biggest processes that not to downplay, you make it out alive. I mean, there are many people that we celebrate on Memorial Day because they weren't as lucky to be the veterans and to be celebrated with a parade or celebrated by being able to come home to their families. And but we were talking about leaving our families behind and joining the military and going abroad. Both of you, we just talked off air. Ralph from Camden, probably. I was going to say you're probably happy to go to the military. Sorry, that was inappropriate.
Really?
That was terrible.
Bill,
Sorry.
really?
Sorry. But you started talking about the fact that your wife wasn't real happy.
Well, we Marie and I got married right out of after I got out of high school. She's much older than I am. She's
there goes one listener.
No. We kid about it all the time. Listen, I'm going to be celebrating my 49th anniversary coming up next week, and I'm very proud and happy that Marie stuck with me all these years.
She gets
it
a
hasn't
statue.
been easy.
Yeah,
it's not. I think it's easier for the service person when he goes in than it is for the family that he leaves behind. Many struggles there, and I put up a post last night saying that while it's Veterans Day for veterans, I fully believe that it is Veterans Day for the spouses who went through it with the veterans, because it's the anxiety that they have, the not knowing where their loved one is a tremendous burden to carry, along with handling all the household chores and bills and children, if there are any.
Right. I mean, I had on a Monday morning at 7:00, and I apologize in advance if he's listening because I butcher his name again. Francis Rachopi, and he's recently out in January, 3 tours in Iraq, and really the reason he left was he has a 7-year-old daughter he really didn't know, and he needed to come back and spend some time with her. And that's a great sacrifice that our military makes for us.
When I deployed, I missed my oldest son's first birthday, first Christmas. And that's pretty difficult for the folks that are deployed. But again, it's still you lose that. You lose that. You can't get that back.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, you can't get that back, and it's difficult. I mean, in this day and age, it was different back then because you had to send the film out for development and, the Polaroid cameras and things like that, but nowadays here, I'm sure there's a lot more exchange of videos and pictures to where they may not be there for the party, but they're at least seeing what's happening and they feel a little bit, part of it. When you guys were in the military, I mean, you got a letter that you saw 2.5 weeks later with a crayon drawing of your kid's first day of school, or whatever it might be. I mean, Michael, you talked about your mom and leaving home, and I'm sure it's always interesting when I get to interview people, and I don't do it a lot because I only fill in for Jeremy, but just in town and other things that I do in the community. I'm always interested when I look at people tell stories that they're living that story again, and they remember it as if it was the day they just walked out the door to go to the military.
It was exciting. For me, I was really looking forward to it. Again, it was 1967, so
not to feel bad. That was the year I was born. But keep going.
Got you. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
But with Vietnam being that on TV every night, that's all the moms saw. There were some awful things that were going on, and there was always that concern about, is my son going to come home? And so I know that put a lot of pressure on the family. Luckily, I wasn't married when I went in, but I have to admit, I left on September 6th. The first time I came home was sometime mid-March, and in between that time, I had my girlfriend at the time decided that her going to college and enjoying what she was doing was not something she was going to hang around and wait for 6 years for me to come back. So you do get that Dear John letter. That was that's always kind of exciting when you're in the military, and that happened to a number of folks when that kind of stuff is going on, because people at home just don't want to sit around and wait for you to come back. You know what I mean? It's luckily if you're married and you have a wife that is going to take care of your family and make sure that happens is wonderful. But as a single guy, to have somebody hang out and wait for you to come home after a year's worth of deployment, especially when they're going to college, is not something you can expect.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that way. And again, there are people just can't stay by. When we come back from the news break, I want to talk about coming home and how veterans are brought back into daily life and society. Back in a moment.
Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. The Jersey Shore's news leader. Listen online at WOBMAM.com and on the Radio Pup app for smartphones and tablets. News Talk Radio.
1160 and 1310 WOBM.
Live from the Jersey Shore to the world. Get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Take the show wherever you go. Download the free Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I am Phil Brilliant, substituting for Jeremy on this Friday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day to all of our vets out there. It is 6:34, so it is time to get up, get out, and do something. Remember, you can join the conversation, 732-505-1160. In studio with Ralph Wolf and Michael Schaffer, both of American Legion Post 129 and U.S. Navy vets. And as we went to break, we were talking about, coming from military life back on American soil in some instances and to civilian life, back into the family, back into changing diapers and the daily grind, or, getting married and convincing the loved ones to stay home with you, as opposed to the other way around. So, Michael, we've talked back and forth, and it seems like, you came back. You were just saying it when we went to break. The girlfriend had decided not to wait for you. So I guess you came home with new vigor.
It was, and I have to say, I was deployed. I was in for 6 years. So I would like to say that that was the only Dear John letter I got, but that's not true. It would be funny. You'd be home for 6 months and you'd meet somebody and you'd, get a relationship going on, and they'd throw that line over the side and you were gone for 6 months, and maybe not the first mail call after a month, but the second mail call, usually it was that, or you never did get a letter back, or
right.
You'd, get some kind of crazy note. So it's tough for people to wait, and that's completely understandable. You know what I mean? You're dealing with somebody that, has limited communication. You don't know when they're going to be coming home. You have a life. There wasn't that kind of commitment. So that wasn't the first and only one, but, right. It was... You were a sailor. Things were good. You know what I mean? Like I said, I wouldn't swap a day of it, but, there were some strangely emotional times when you're deployed that long. I'm sure.
But you come back home, you got your feet on solid ground now, and, how much assistance and how much help at that time are you getting from the government? How much are you getting to get, better way, come back into daily society and daily grind?
Well, back then, as I said earlier, we were advised not to wear our uniforms in public because of the, I guess, the stigma that was put on the service people as they were even in the service because of the unpopular war in Vietnam and some of the crimes that were committed over there. And everyone, all of the service people had to pay for that. So we were not welcomed home like you see the soldiers and sailors coming home today. And as assistance just wasn't there. When you rotated out, you got your DD-214, and they said, thank you very much for your service. And kind of like leaving prison. They open the door, here you go, don't come back.
Right,
and,
you got your $2 a day.
Yeah, the $2 a day, and there you are. And then it was up to you to go back to perhaps a job that you had or to find a new way of life. For me, I did go back to the job that I had previously, which was very, very boring. But it was difficult to find an employer who would want to take you in. It was you were thought to be unstable at that point, and it was hard to find a good, solid job.
So that they were not willing to hire, and you said unstable. Was it the mix of what they were concerned about, the instability because of your military service, or unstable because of what their idea was of your military service because of what they saw on TV?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of, again, there wasn't that social media stuff. There wasn't, when I got out of high school, I worked at a burger place, when you're in high school. When you get out, 6 years later, now I'm 23 years old. I've never really had a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, I didn't have anything to go back to. Luckily, I have to admit I did, in fact, use the GI Bill and go to school, which worked out well for me. I did get a job with an employer who was veteran friendly. I worked for Johnson & Johnson, and the general was still alive at that point, so they were very military friendly and fell into a great job after school. But again, I think it was the disappointment that you did what you were asked to do, and as a veteran, it's you sign a contract where the bottom line is you're willing to give up your life for your country, and then when you get back, the country isn't there. And I'm not talking as much the military as it was people. I was very proud of the uniform I wore. Mm-hmm. And it was a little disheartening that, if you went off base, not so much where you were stationed. I was down in Norfolk, which is like the largest military naval base on the planet. Around town, it was okay because you were with your brothers and sisters at that point. Yep. But coming back to Spotswood, New Jersey, there was none of that military support. So it was a little tough when you got out.
Yeah. So, so again, we talk about the fact of respecting those who, give their time to serve our country. I don't want to go back into what we're talking about relative to, I think, the disrespect that a lot of people are showing right now to our country, but you're talking about coming back during, really a time of war going on. You don't have the media we have today, but still, people's ideas were tainted. And, you're coming back, trying to get jobs, trying to get back in society. When we come back, you guys mentioned a little bit about that the government support wasn't there. But I got to believe that's where the American Legion ties in. And so that's a great lead into let's starting to talk about the American Legion. We'll be back in a moment.
Rush Limbaugh today at noon. More Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin coming up next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Make a difference at the Jersey Shore. 732-505-1160. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. It is Friday, November 11th. It is Veterans Day 2016. It is 6:45 a.m., and we're continuing our conversation about Veterans Day, being a vet, with Ralph Wolf and Michael Schaffer, both of the American Legion Post 129. When we went to break, we starting to talk about we're back in country. We're no longer we're a veteran. We've been discharged from the military. We saw the little video, or maybe didn't. Fran said on Monday he got to see a video, and he was told to go home. We'll leave government out of this, because that just will probably prolong the conversation for too long. We don't have that much on the show. But American Legion's place in veterans. So let's start there. I'll look at Commander Schaffer. Give us the start story.
The American Legion was founded. Actually, there was an American Legion prior to the First World War. Very unorganized. GAR, Grand Army of the Republic, left over from World War I, at the beginning of World War I, and the end of the Civil War. The American Legion itself was chartered in 1919. And so we have our 100th anniversary coming up here shortly, which is going to be a big deal for the American Legion. A couple of things that the Legion has done that probably not a whole lot of people are aware of, even though they've taken advantage of it, is the GI Bill was written by a national commander of the American Legion while he was visiting in Washington. And that document was given to Congress, and they passed it without change. So the current GI Bill that you're seeing was, in fact, written by the American Legion. So that was pretty much our kickoff with, how we wanted to make sure that veterans were going to be taken care of. The organization itself is, again, worldwide. And once you're a Legionnaire at every single American Legion post, any place on the planet. You have a home post, but as far as being a Legionnaire, you're a Legionnaire wherever you visit, and I make sure that I do that whenever I'm traveling. I try to find a local post and support those folks as they have been supporting us. So it's an incredible organization, and we are trying to pick up some of that slack. We're really reaching out to the guys at MDL, McGuire, Dix, Lakehurst, while they're still active, to let them know that we're there if they need anything, if they need any help, they need direction on where they're going, or if they are a little confused about what they're doing when they get out, and what we can do to kind of help that process. So the Legion is a group of veterans, men and women, who are doing an incredible job trying to fill some of the void that gets left. I didn't. They may see a video now, but there wasn't even a video in 1973.
You're lucky you have a TV back then.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You were handed a note. I mean, I rotated out in Norfolk, and they don't even get you transportation home. It's pretty much, here you go. You have to be off the base by 1 o'clock and figure it out.
There wasn't one of those, I don't remember what they call them, where you put your head in the little viewfinder and you turn the crank.
Yeah, it's pretty
used
much
to have
what
them in
it
the
was.
shoe store.
Yeah, that's
Buster
it.
Brown.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pretty
Now I'm
much
showing
the
my
same
age.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
So-
that gate closed behind you, you kind of got the feeling that, oh, wow,
Now, Michael said something that caught my attention. So, American Legion, men and women. Is there are there a lot of women in the American Legion? I always saw it, and I'll be sexist here. Don't be. I always saw it as a man's organization.
Not at all. We have actually one of our past commanders was a naval officer. Darlene Scheidemann was a naval officer who.
I'm probably getting yelled at right now at people's cars driving around that I'm sexist.
yeah, you won't get in your house the same as I won't.
Yeah,
get in
you
my
couldn't
house,
change the locks over there too.
Yep.
But so again, there's a large female contingent in the Legion itself as veterans, but one of the largest organizations that supports the veterans and supports the Legion is the Legion Auxiliary. They're also a chartered organization. You know, you have to be the wife or mother or daughter of a vet, and we have over 400 auxiliary members at the post that do incredible work supporting veterans in nursing homes and projects and Christmas parties. And, you know, just at the Sunday before Thanksgiving, the American Legion Auxiliary sponsors a veterans dinner where we have men and women from nursing homes all over the state that come to the post that Sunday with a lot of volunteers at the post. And we throw them a full-blown Thanksgiving dinner. You know, turkey dressing stuff and mashed potatoes. We have entertainment from local school kids that come out, and we throw those men and women an incredible Thanksgiving dinner because they're locked up in nursing homes. A lot don't have families, and so that's pretty much their Thanksgiving.
That's all they get.
Get out and
you guys
enjoy
do that
it.
for them. That's
you
great.
know, and we get goodie bags where they go home. We have a knitting club that makes Afghans and all kinds of stuff that the guys get to take back to the nursing homes and hospitals and stuff with them. So the auxiliary does an amazing job.
Ralph, when did you get first involved with American Legion?
So many years ago when I moved up here, we moved up from Camden in 1979. I got involved with the American Legion over in Seaside, a great post over there. And then with starting my business and family obligations, I kind of, after a few years, I was out of it for a few years, and then came back a number of years ago when we opened up over here, and been involved ever since, trying to give back to the post the best way I can.
Yeah. What is, I guess, one of the best benefits that veterans get from the American Legion, other than I'm sure the one is camaraderie? You know, because you can walk into a room and know that there's somebody else in that room who has experienced what you have. You know, what about, what else is the post giving back?
And I think before I get in a lot of trouble, we also have an organization called the Sons of the Legion. And these are men and women who are men whose father or grandfather served. And this is also the place where the gentlemen who don't fit our area of eligibility are also able to join. So they can join the American Legion as a son of the Legion and still be able to participate. So I think that a lot of the stuff that we do to help the new guys rotate back in is you do when you rotate out, you get a DD-214, an interesting document that has a whole lot of stuff on what you did in the military. It's all done by code numbers. It's all done by where you served, but not necessarily what you did. And if you were to take that to an employer and show that to them, they wouldn't know whether you were the captain of a ship or whether you worked in a boiler room.
Right.
You know, there's no real determination there. So we really get involved. The post itself is held over, the Legion actually in the state is held over 30 job fairs. And we've held the first job fair in the state. And at that job fair, we actually have people who will take that DD-214 and turn it into a resume because they know what all the codes mean. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that you now have something that you can take to an employer. And I think some of the real problem with a lot of that is you'll have a gentleman who was in the Army that drove a tanker truck full of gasoline through Afghanistan, but when he gets back, he can't get a CDL because the state of New Jersey doesn't recognize his military experience as a truck driver driving
Right.
a gasoline truck while you're being shot at to be able to get your CDL without having to go through the whole process of years of...
Remember I said we weren't going to talk about government.
I got you.
Well, I think in New Jersey you get shot at on the highway anyway.
That's
true
too.
Yeah.
That's too
I
many
think the
years.
most
Too many years in
important-
Camden, Ralph. I'm sorry.
Too many years in Camden.
Yeah.
I think the most important part of that, the DD-214, is the line where it says honorably discharged. Yeah. That is what I think as an employer myself, my eyes scan right down to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I think if I looked at that form, as an employer, that'd probably be the only thing I'd understand, and I understand, what Michael was saying. I mean, basically you can look at, and I'm going to put DD-14.
DD-214.
DD-214. And there's a lot of content on there that if somebody can take, they can turn it into a resume that has a great deal of experience. Because what people do in the military, I'll say outside of maybe direct combat, though direct combat has to deal with leadership. Okay, it has to deal with accuracy. It has to deal with how you command troops and how you take direction, and you can turn all that into a great resume. And I look for that when I'm looking at resumes to try to bring people on, because I want people who are going to listen and want to take the job and experience. We're going to a news break now. That's why I'm talking so long. And when we come back after the news break, I want to continue talking about American Legion, talk about Post 129 here in Toms River, and your activities. Back in a moment.
Coming up next, the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from the Bob Levy Broadcast Center, overlooking the Toms River, it's time to get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show, 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I'm Phil Brilliant, substituting for Jeremy. Today is my last day, so I get to tell you it is currently 45 degrees outside, high today of 60, so not a bad day. And actually, the weekend doesn't look too bad, though the nights will be a little chilly. It is 7:07. We are continuing our conversation as we celebrate and honor those veterans today on Veterans Day. And we have with us Ralph Wolf, who is a trustee of the American Legion Post 129, a U.S. Navy vet, and Michael Schaffer, who is the commander of American Legion Post 129 here in Toms River, and also a U.S. Navy vet. We went to break. We were talking about the American Legion, and of course, off air, I just learned more. We need like 2 more hours of this show to be able to really cover everything the Legion does, but we are going to condense it, and I'm going to stop talking. And Michael's
I can't squeeze that for you, Phil.
You can't get me 2 more hours?
No, I don't think so.
Marianne and Joel maybe take the day off?
Maybe. You might be able to work something out with Joel.
Yeah.
Give him a call.
We'll have to give him a call. We'll have to
Give
see
him
what
a
happens.
bribe.
I'm there. I'll stay here all day if we have to, because this is what's important for people to learn and know more about what our veterans do. So tell us, American Legion Post 129, and I just learned the largest post in New Jersey.
Correct. We have 1,700 members. We have 400 auxiliary, 400 sons. We have a motorcycle contingent of about 80 motorcycle riders that are members across that the 3 organizations, and we're kind of that central post in the state. Easy access off the Parkway. We hold a lot of statewide events at our post because of that. We hold a lot of county events because of the size of our hall, and we enjoy every single one of those. And what we can do to, we have a motto that was started with the riders. We have a little patch that we wear because people always ask us why we do this and why we do that and how'd you get involved. And it just is because that's what we do. Just that simple.
It is just that simple.
And one of the things that I'm incredibly proud of being able to participate in what is a group of people called Mission of Honor. We're a big supporter. We make sure that these events go off well wherever they're held. It's a group of people who have completely dedicated themselves to fallen veterans. One of the members of Mission of Honor went to a funeral home to pick up the remains of his grandfather, and the funeral director opened up a storage door, and there were all the little boxes with all the remains in it, and the guy says, what is all this? And he says, these are remains that nobody ever came back to pick up. And he says, we have to keep them forever. We can't dispose of them.
Right.
So I just have this room that's just filled with these remains. And he asked if there were any veterans, and he said yes. And this gentleman made it an effort to find out what he needed to do to be able to take possession of those remains. Took a couple years because they just can't give the remains to anybody that comes in off the street. And there's now been a bill that's been passed by the state wide that funeral homes really need to reach out for Mission of Honor to let them know that they have veterans' remains that are there. And those remains are gathered up by the folks at Mission of Honor. And once every 2 months, depending upon how many they've recovered, they have, and we just participate in, a full military funeral. I mean, it's with all the honors, the records of the men and women who were left behind are read at a formal ceremony at Doyle. There's the full honor guard salute. There's a full military burial. And in the last 3.5, 4 years, they've actually interred over 200 veterans that were left behind.
Wow.
In funeral homes. And in addition to that, because of the internet now and the dedication of the people who work Mission of Honor, they've also returned 396 remains to families that weren't aware that Uncle Bob wasn't buried or Grandpa wasn't taken care of, or you have a situation where family wasn't aware. So in the last 3 or 4 years, there's actually been over 600 vets that have actually either been returned to their families or have been properly interred at Doyle. And it's an amazing ceremony. It's one of those deals where you just need to make that happen. And it goes far as back. There was a gentleman who fought in the Spanish-American War who sat on a shelf for 70 years before he was properly buried. So Mission of Honor is a big deal. It's making sure that, again, no vet gets left behind.
Right.
So
right.
it's a big deal.
And it shows a great deal of respect for those who have served, and that is definitely what they deserve. And you also talked offline about the Gold Star program, which I wasn't familiar.
Right. Gold Star families.
And you guys weren't surprised that I wasn't familiar with it.
Right. And it's sad. Gold Star families are families of fallen warriors. Since 9/11, we've lost 180 warriors in New Jersey. So there's 180 families out there that have lost a son, a brother, a father, a daughter, a mother. And so Gold Star families, which have been around since World War II, it was if you had a service member or a family member that's serving, you'd put a blue star out on a flag that would be posted on your front window or on your lawn. And if that person was killed in action, it would get changed over to a Gold Star. And the Gold Star Family Organization has been around forever in supporting of those families to make sure that if there's any need that family has, that they have a support group that they can go to. And to that end, on December 11th, we're holding a Christmas party, working with the folks out at MDL, the SOS, and the USO Survivors Organization. And we have, at this point, 80 adults and 35 children that have RSVP'd for the Christmas party. And I want to thank, since we're plugging TD Bank, came to us and said that they had this goal that they wanted to do something for veterans. And they actually have collection boxes at 6 different branches throughout the county, collecting presents. We're going to have a big wrapping party at the post to get everything wrapped up, and then December 11th there'll be a Christmas party, and Santa will be there to hand out presents to the kids. So if there's anybody out there that's a Gold Star family isn't aware of this, please contact the post, because we want to make sure that we get as many as possible to
good opportunity.
to reach out.
How would they contact the post?
We do have an email address. It's a.l.tomsriver129 at Gmail. And, they can go there and just let us know that you're interested in coming to the Christmas party, and somebody will reach out for you to make sure that, that we're aware of something that you want to do and participate in. The Gold Star families are those folks that really need to have, to understand that there are people out there that are going to make sure that they don't get forgotten, and people are going to take care of them and be there for support.
And to be clear, as I said offline, I have 2 Navy vets in front of me here, but American Legion is open to all branches of the military, all of those veterans who are coming out. And again, I learn something new every day. When I talk to veterans, I usually learn about 10 things new. But the American Legion, fully funded by donations. And I guess gifts from those organizations or individuals.
And we, again, we have a. Now I can get into the commercial about how we make money.
That's good.
But we have a full-service kitchen that operates from 10 o'clock in the morning till about 9 o'clock at night. I have a banquet manager, full-time banquet manager, full-time bar manager, full-time entertainment manager. Our canteen is basically a sports bar. TVs, football games on Saturday, NASCAR races. We have live entertainment every Friday and Saturday night, cover bands, DJs, karaoke, country western. I mean, we have a full-blown calendar of entertainment every Friday and Saturday night.
Now, is that for veterans?
It's Fridays and Saturday nights. We have a gentleman that is at the door, and if you're a civilian and you want to come over to the post, they will sign you in, and you can enjoy the stuff that's going on at the post. If we're having an event, December 17th, we're having a 16-piece orchestra with doing a Frank Sinatra salute.
Oh, wow.
It's right around his birthday. Bob Kulick, who was the lead singer for the Happenings that did See You in September.
Okay.
He'll be the vocalist. The room holds 200 people, and I believe we're almost sold out for that event. And again, it's a lot of people who are just aware of some of the stuff that goes on at the Post. We do a big New Year's Eve thing. And again, you don't have to be a member. You can be someone that's just aware of some of the stuff that we have going on. So that's how we, generate a lot of funds is through all the events that go on at the Post and things people can participate in and just come over.
And don't forget about bingo.
And bingo on Thursday nights.
Let's hold bingo out. We'll hold the bingo as a teaser for our listeners.
Okay.
And
Let's
just remember,
talk
this
about
is
bingo.
2025 Church Road is where the building is located. A beautiful
Correct.
building here in Toms River. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about bingo and how Todd Frazier and Mike Piazza have something to do with American Legion. Back in a moment.
Everything you need to know about the Jersey Shore. This is Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. We are continuing our conversation here as we honor all of those veterans today on Veterans Day 2016. Remember, join the conversation, 732-505-1160. When we went to break, we teased out a couple things. We teased out how Todd Frazier and Mike Piazza have something to do with American Legion. So who wants to answer that question?
I'll take the American Legion one, and you can talk about Boy State.
Perfect.
Good. Legion Baseball. We sponsor a Legion baseball team, as do a number of posts in the county, as do a number of posts in the state. And Legion Baseball is your basic baseball traveling team. It's a high school team that it gets sponsored by an American Legion post, and they participate around the state in a summer baseball league. And there's been a couple of graduates of Legion Baseball, and there's been actually 103 major leaguers that are graduates of Legion Baseball. A couple of them you might recognize: Yogi Berra, Gary Carter, Roger Clemens, Mike Piazza, Todd Frazier. I'm sticking with the Yankee and Mets guys. Actually, Jacob deGrom, currently pitching for the Mets, was a graduate of Legion Baseball. So it's a program that really showcases top-notch players who turn into professional baseball players, and it is a program that is, again, 100% completely funded by the American Legion, and it's a great program that is well managed. The kids get a lot of experience, and they get to play other Legion posts from around the state. It's a really, really good program.
And it's an educational process because they're playing for the American Legion also. So you get a little more understanding of it. Yep. So Ralph's getting put on the spot because my girlfriend Debbie texted that Joey, her son, participated in Boys State. And so we're going to talk about Boys and Girls State. And, the first thing that jumped out at me was the, 36 governors, one vice president happened to be Dick Cheney, which I thought was interesting, and one president, Bill Clinton.
So, yeah, it's an awesome program for high school students to learn about how to set up government and to learn about the inner workings of a government. I think it definitely helps going through that. As you can see, the number of statesmen that have gone through this process. Some of them learned, I guess, and some of them didn't.
Yeah, we're not going to judge who learned and who didn't, But it is a rather. I mean, again, we talked a little bit before about building resumes. Okay, it looks incredible on a resume, but it builds character.
And you look at figures like the astronauts. We've had 5 astronauts go through the program, 1 vice president and 1 president. So it's an awesome program. I think this is held right here at Rider College, right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do the schools promote it enough? Is it something? Because I mean, you look at the numbers. I mean, yes, there's kids that go through and they've done something with their lives, but I would think that maybe we'd see higher numbers.
Well, last year and this year again, there's over 1,000 boys from the state of New Jersey that go to Rider College for a week.
Wow.
So this is supported across the state, and every state has a boys' state program. Again, New Jersey is one of those ones that has the least amount of cost. It costs every Legion post $225, I believe, to send one of the boys to boys' state. There's also a girls' state that is managed by the auxiliary. They have the same programs. It just hasn't been around quite as long. But there's 1,000 boys every year, and they're all new. If you went one year, you're done. So
of course, we're going back to news break again, our last break, and then we'll finish when we come back, and we'll talk about volunteering and all that American Legion does here locally in Toms River. We'll be back in a moment.
The news never stops at WOBMAM.com. Get the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from Town Square Towers at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. It is November 11th, Veterans Day, 11/11, and we are talking to 2 great veterans here in the studio. We've been talking all morning, and this is our last segment. But if I don't get the chance, thank you very much for not only what you did for our country and for serving in our country, but for joining me this morning, which I've been told on the B team. So I appreciate you being here at the B team this morning.
Yeah, it was a tough thing.
it was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you for having us.
Thank you. So, American Legion, let's really drive home what you guys do. Let's start with the reach out to young vets.
We are we're close to MDL, which is the largest tri base with all the services in the country. Actually, the only one. The young veterans need to know that there are people out there that are looking to support them, that are looking to help them when they're having an issue. Again, they're away from home. It's especially if you're just coming back from a deployment, you're used to having that core group of people around you that you can trust, somebody that you know has their back. Right. And we want to be able to have that same kind of feeling for the young vet, to give them a place where they know they can walk in and not have to worry about the door. They don't have to worry about whether somebody's going to walk in and do something crazy, where they don't have to worry about the person sitting next to them having an issue. So, we're really, really, really trying to get the young vet to come in. We're getting a lot of folks from MDL now, and it's nice to see them come in and let them know that we're there to make sure that if they have an issue that they can come to us and reach out for somebody and help them with an issue. And some of that stuff, especially if a husband or wife is deployed, we have a thing that's called emergency family aid. The husband's deployed, the wife needs to get her lawn mowed, or they're having problems with a roof leak. The Legion will send somebody to the house to mow the lawn, send somebody to the house to fix a roof leak. We do temporary financial aid with the young vets that are rotating out, that are going to like Ocean County College.
Right.
They pay their tuition, they're paying rent, they're working a second job, but they can't afford their books. They come over to us, they bring us a receipt for their books, we give them a check for the bookstore, they go and get their books so they can continue their education. We have temporary financial aid where we help with somebody. We had a veteran come in a couple of weeks ago had got laid off from his job, unemployment and his Social Security wasn't kicking in for a couple of weeks. They were going to turn the electricity off in his house with his wife and 2 kids. We paid the electric bill. We gave him a trunk full of groceries so that they could go home and he could feed his kids that night. I mean, Vet Works, which is down in Lacey Township, over 400 nights a year in motel rooms for homeless vets. I mean, it's just all that stuff that we do that they can come to the post, they can come to the Legion. And it's not just us. They can go to any American Legion post in the county, in the state, and there'll be somebody there that can help them with the program. We have service officers that do amazing jobs. And it's come in, sit down, talk to somebody.
And again, everybody who is in the post and working at the post, let it be cleaning the toilets or helping individuals, 100% volunteers. Nobody is getting paid to do this. Even the people who are pulling numbers on Thursday night for bingo at 7 o'clock. And again, open to anybody in the community.
Correct. And again, it's one of our, big fundraising operation for us. And again, so that, that supports all the rest of the projects that we do. And we're probably looking at, when we try to add up all the hours of what we do and the donations that we do, financially plus hour-wise, it's over 70,000 hours a year of volunteer time.
Yeah. So, Ralph, today's Veterans Day. What are some of the things going on, and what's your son doing today?
Yeah, so I want to give a shout-out to my son, Mike. He is a combat vet out of Iraq. Done a lot of great things for the people over there. Yeah, he's actually with Rolling Thunder today, making a run up to the War Memorial, where my wife and I are so very proud of him. What's going on today? So we do have our ceremony at the American Legion Post 129 at 11:11 for Veterans Day. And then directly after that, we will be at the memorial behind the building for the 13, I believe, servicemen who have fallen.
From Ocean County.
From Ocean County. And then we have the memorial dedication. Thank you to the Jay and Linda Grunin Foundation. That will be over at the
Bailey Park front lawn.
Yeah.
On the corner of Bay Avenue and North Bay, and that's at 1 o'clock today.
And it's a great location because it's there amongst the schools, and it's meant to remind everyone that never to forget the veterans and what they've done for our country. And
then the Toms River Parade is Monday morning. At 9 o'clock?
9:30 step
9:30 start. 9:30. Okay. Yeah, I knew it was something with a 9.
We will all be there, and I really hope that the listeners here will be out and to honor the veterans as we walk by.
Well, I will tell you guys, first of all, thank you very much for being in here today. Commander Michael Schaffer, Ralph Wolf, trustee of Post 129 here in Toms River, American Legion. Thank you for your service. Thank you to all of the veterans out there. And I really think today, even though it should be done every day, when you see somebody in uniform or you see somebody representing themselves as a veteran, you should thank them for what they do. Once again, guys, thank you very much for being here this morning, and we'll be back in a moment.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.